Hello. Good day. Today's date, January 15th, 2024. We're here with the renowned Dominican captain, shipbuilder, marine industry entrepreneur, Captain Neville Wade of Portsmouth, Dominica. Good day, Captain Wade. How are you, sir?
Okay, feeling all right this morning. It's a little rainy, but we're here and feeling healthy.
Captain Wade, I know that you had surgery recently on your eyes, so we're asking God's beneficence to bring you back good and healthy with regard to your surgical procedure, and that's why you may be squinting. For those who will look at this tape, normally that's not the Captain Wade's profile, but he wanted to make sure this interview took place. So, Captain Wade, I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your determination. And I want to just, on behalf of all Dominicans, take a moment to congratulate someone who, from very tender years, started doing boat building in Portsmouth. Portsmouth, Dominica is a site for the old Royal Navy base at Fort Shirley. And it was a place where many boats were built. In my youth, I would remember coming across the Indian River Bridge and seeing boats being built, boats that were as long as 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 feet. So that was quite amazing. Captain Wade, where were you born and when were you born?
I was born right in Portsmouth on Rodney Street, very close proximity to the Roman Catholic Church next door. I was born in April. And
you're born in April of what year?
April 1942. And my birthday will be on the 14th of April.
So you're born April 14th, 1942.
Yeah.
So that was 1 year after another famous Portsmouth-born person, Prime Minister Rosie Douglas.
Yeah, we were friends all the way. We used to meet because we walked every morning. I would say Rosie didn't die normally because he could have suffered to die. He just died one morning. Of course, that's why we have to be prepared to die. But Rosie walked with 10-pound weights across his waist, you know, yes, to keep the exercise in trim. And you know, he just disappeared from the face of reality. And
but
we're still sorry.
Yeah, we're very sorry for how Rosie left us, but we're here to continue his work in development. Captain Wade, can you tell us who your parents were?
Okay, let me first say that I wasn't a boat builder per se. You know, I built boats, but the boat builders, all of them have gone. The boat builders were big men when I was born. The Captain Aki, I remember, and they built rail ships, you know. But I built little boats, 30 and 40 feet long. But they built stuff 90 feet long, 80 feet long, just west of where I lived originally. And so I built boats and I made my living by boats I built. In fact, I'm building one right now, a bigger one than all the others I built. But with my special knack for designing boats. And I'm so yeah.
And stick a pin in that for a moment, Captain Wade. Can you tell me who taught you to build boats?
No. You know, I have always seen myself as a visionary revolutionary. Everything in Portsmouth, everything, from stone producing, mechanics, teaching people to drive, taking people to hospitals, taking care of agriculture, building trucks. I did that in a revolutionary way, with a vision that my boys, I taught 32 people to drive for pay, $3 per hour, and 32 people to drive for free, because I wanted to see young men doing something. Now, when I taught people to drive, I didn't just teach them to drive. So I said, I'm going to teach you to drive, but I'm going to give you a big truck to drive Philip Stones. The truck has no starter, no battery. You have to take it to Marigot, dump the stones, and come back to Portsmouth.
Amazing.
Then how materials made for the roads, because in those days our materials crushed by a man with a ball peen hammer. His name was Mr. Wilfred. We call him Wilfred Baliku. He was also responsible for discharging the boats that brought the material from Roseau for the shops in Portsmouth. He had a cart. We call it a wheelbarrow. And he broke the stones, but he would take maybe 3 months to produce a cut of stones. And I have a younger friend, his name was Eric Leblanc. Not incidentally, passed away maybe a year now. The years go so fast. I said, Coco, we call him Coco. I said, look, we can do what he does in 3 months in half an hour. He said, serious? Yeah. I said, oh, we have to find a Lister engine that will crank, because we don't have any money to buy batteries or starters. So we'll start with our hand, and then we'll find a jaw to throw the stones in, and I'll organize that, and we'll make a bed, and we'll make a stone crusher. He said, let's do it, bros. Everybody called me brods, you know? And so we did that. In fact, a few months ago—
Stick a pin in that, Captain Wade. I'm trying to, you know, this is just amazing. How did you know about the Lister engine? Where did you learn the art of mechanical engineering to be able to create a receptacle and a stone crusher?
As I said, you know, I was maybe gifted. And if he said yes, I said, we're going to do it. And
well, stick a pin in that. Stick a pin in this. Let's go back a little bit, because I asked you where you were born, Portsmouth, when you were born, April 14th, 1942. Let me have the name of your mother and your father, your siblings,
okay,
your brothers.
Yeah. My mother was Isabella Ann Robin from Wesley. My father was Norman Alexander Wade from Portsmouth. My mother died at 80 years old. My father died at 84 years old. My mother was born in 1916 and my father in 1913. I cannot pinpoint the date of the month now. So, yeah.
What were their occupations, Neville? What did they do for a living?
Oh, my father was a guy, he inspired me, really. He did nothing and he did everything. The first I can remember of him, we lived at Woodford Hill. And I saw my father bring in a few pieces of galvanized and put in the yard. That spot is still empty today. It had belonged to a man they called Mr. Descartier. It's still empty today because I passed through Woodford Hill maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I could still remember the little spot. I might have been 3 or 4 years. And I would see my father come in with pieces of bicycles because he wanted to build a bicycle. What would he do with that bicycle? In those days, there were no roads to Woodford Hill or from Woodford Hill to Portsmouth. But he wanted to come to Portsmouth to buy sprats. We call them kai, small fish. So he wanted a means to assist him to carry that from Portsmouth to Woodford Hill. And my father would make bricks for the bicycle. And he used pieces of bullet wood. I can remember that clearly. I don't know why small children remember certain things. And he would go to Portsmouth and bring up this basket of sprats. I believe I remember him saying $3 for the sprats, and they would sell a cup of sprats after drying them on the sheet metal for 3 pence per cup. So I followed that very well.
So your father was involved in fisheries industry, meaning he bought the fish, he dried the fish, he sold the fish. Is that correct?
That's right. Then some afterwards, I didn't see my father for some time. But that time, I believe he went to Guadeloupe to cut cane. That must have been 1945, 46, 47, 48. But with their intelligence, they wanted to find something to bring back from Guadeloupe. So they could pay. So they would spend maybe 6 months in Guadeloupe and come back. And with their earnings for the months, they would buy maybe 1 or 2 pounds of tobacco. That was a lighter cargo. The transportation in those days was a Carib dugout canoe with sails. There were no engines and oars. But if you know Calibishi well, Calibishi has a nice long beach, and the sea would break a few 100 feet outside. Now, if you don't come and go to that small boat with some people in it, then it would sink. So many times they sank, and all their earnings would go away, would be taken away or stolen or whatever, because in the night they wouldn't find their tobacco. After my father had done that a few times, he came and he
Stick
said,
a pin in that,
back to
Captain
Bordeaux.
Wade. Captain Wade, stick a pin in that. So you're saying during that period, 1945, 46, there were no outboard motors, so people would row their canoes from Calibishi to Guadeloupe and back.
Yes, row and sail. If you know the structure of a Carib canoe, it had this big sail on it. So when there was wind, they would use the wind. And when there was no wind, they would row.
Okay.
In fact, we did that on big vessels. When I used to go out first with the old men, Captain Magloire and Captain George and so on, when there was no wind, there was a 40-foot oar on the boat. In fact, when I built the first boat that I went out with in a way to go out, you know, you take little chances now and then. My first boat I really built and had these engines on. I had put 2 rudders at the back, and the rudders fell in the sea between Guadeloupe and Montserrat. And I don't know what I was thinking of, because at that time I was not a good swimmer, but I jumped in the middle of the ocean and went to recoup the rudders, and I did so. But how could I get back to the boat when there was no steering? But I had a friend on board, a very good captain too. In fact, in captaincy was my senior. I was older than him, Avril. He passed away a few years, 2014, 19th of December 2014. I will never forget him, because he comes very, very importantly in everything we did. You know, I don't want to jump too far forward, but with him,
that's a very interesting story. You're saying to me that you're going to Montserrat, you lost the rudders are in the sea, you dove into the water, although you're not a good swimmer, you retrieved the rudders, and then you brought it back to the boat.
Oh yes. And he steered the boat with we had this big oar on board. He steered the boat, and when we reached Montserrat, we built a new rudder. I remember the name of the guy very well. If I see him, I wouldn't know him. His name was Wang. Wang prepared a rudder for us, and we dove, Cyril Hysant and I dove the night and put on that rudder and came back to Portsmouth with that boat. So let's continue on my father now. So my father came back, and he must have built a house in Portsmouth or something, I didn't know, but he took us to Portsmouth. In those days, everybody who came to Portsmouth worked at the business of Mr. R.B. Douglas. R.B. Douglas, and my mother came to work at R.B. Douglas.
And R.B. Douglas, for those who will be listening, R.B. Douglas is the father of Rosie Douglas and Adenawa Douglas, and the grandfather of R.B. Douglas, who is the one holding the phone so we can interview. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he was a planter and a business owner in Portsmouth.
But RB was the greatest guy around. Yeah, RBD was the greatest guy around. In fact, when I used to get up early morning, he used to come to me and say that he just liked my move, because I was up every 4 o'clock in the morning at a very young age, seeking to do something around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where did you attend school? Where did you attend school during that time, Mr. Wade?
I attended school when I was 4 or 5 years old. I can remember clearly with Mr. Douglas' daughter, who was the nun, Sister Pat, when she became a nun, but I think her name was Patricia. With teacher Rosabelle, just where my own gas station is at this time. There's a tall wooden structure there. The wood was not square wood, it was like trees they used to make that building. And upstairs there was a shed-like building with some seats in it, and that was the preschool in those days. That was where children went to school.
After you left that school, where did you next go to school?
After I went to that school, I went to the Portsmouth Government School. I had never gone to the small classes. I went to standard 3, 4, 5 and 6 were on the scholarship classes, they called it, on the veranda, close to the Home Economic Center in that building. And then I went to grammar school in 1950. in 1950. Either 1958 or 62, 61, one of them. I went to Dominica Grammar School. In those days, we had to go to school on the weekend. And there were boats. Mr. Douglas had a boat taking us to school. His brother, Ordney Douglas, was the captain of that boat. And that boat was built just close to the police station, where the police station is now in Portsmouth. In fact, opposite to his building, by the bay there.
So
There was no back wall
hold a
there
moment now. So you're saying to me that shipbuilding in Portsmouth was at such a level that they were able to build a ship in Portsmouth to take people from Portsmouth to Roseau to go to school. Is that correct?
Oh yes, so yes. All the boats that did the delivery of bananas to the first banana boats, Foley and Bands, was the name of that company at the time, were done by lighters, which were boats maybe 45, 50 feet long, wide enough, with no deck, but they could put the bananas in them, roll them in those days to the ship, and load the ship with them. In fact, the first of those boats was built by my grandfather, who I'd never seen, in Wesley. And it was notable because the bow was round. And as I grew up, the men called the boats that had their bow round, they said the bow looking at the back. And that boat was called Pumpkin. It was built by Mr. Steady Robin from Wesley, somewhere in the 40s.
Let me ask a question about so you went to grammar school. I guess you took the exam, the common entrance exam, and you passed the common entrance exam. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, so there are a few of us who passed. There was special preparation of certain people. In my time was Eudora Joseph, Derek Garraway, Jude Watty. Jude Watty has passed, Derek has passed. No, Derek is there, Eudora drowned. And there is just 4 or 5 of us. There's one person I don't quite remember now. But we were the people, and I think we were all successful to go, but some parents couldn't afford. In those days, it was 75 cents to go to Roseau. And that first boat we went on was called the Lady Katherine. And it was operated by the Shillingfords. And a gentleman by the name of Mr. Johnson, a very tall guy, married to, I forget the first name of his wife. And they had children like Beverly Johnson, Jacqueline Johnson, Rumpy, she's still alive, she's ill now. Michael Johnson, who died, he was a pilot of aircraft, and the young one, forget his name too.
Is this the same family as Clem? Is that the same family as Clem Johnson? No?
Yes, Clem Johnson, yeah. Clem, Kakas were the bigger ones. Yes. And Beverly, Jacqueline, and then Rumpy and all that. There are 1 or 2 others.
So was that boat the Lady Katherine? Was that powered by sail?
Lady Katherine.
Or
no, she had a single engine. I did not know what engine she had inside, because as though in Lady Katherine we did not see the engine. But there was one of the boats we saw the engine. We could sit on the bench on the deck, and you could see the engine. And there was this gentleman always oiling the engine. If an oil can, I was on, is that the way engines had to be oiled? Anyway, that boat took us to Roseau. It was a few cents. But Mr. Johnson, you had to be by his home up across the road, where is now the fisheries in Portsmouth. And you had to be there at 5 in the morning. And he would kind of beckon you with his finger, if he wanted you to travel. And he would go, he'll give you a piece of paper, maybe collect his 75 cents. My father always took me to Roseau. My father took me to Roseau 4 or 5 times before I went to school, so that I could learn Roseau and learn how to get to Newtown, High Street, by my aunt, his sister, where I would live for the term of school, because there was no one going to Portsmouth for the weekend. The boat would take you in on Monday, and you'd be too late for school, and you didn't want to miss school and be late at all.
So the boat would take you up on the weekend, and then you'd be there ready and able to be on time for Monday.
Yes, and you'd be ready also to send down your dirty clothes to your parents, those you couldn't wash. Of course, I had to wash my clothes. Clothes was not so much at the time. It was a pair of pants, and grammar school in those days was khaki pants and shirt. And we had to wrestle to go into pit for cinema on Wednesday afternoon, 20 cents. And after you got wet and smelly, you had your other shirt, you wear it, but you have to wash that one. So you could have one, because if you send down your dirty clothes on Friday, then you cannot go to school on Monday.
So you would have, so the grammar school uniform in those days was a khaki shirt, khaki pants. Did you wear a tie as well? Did you wear a tie?
No tie, no. Just pair of pants and pair of shirts, and your shoe, and maybe your tennis for games. I can't remember if I had a tennis, but I had one pair of shoe. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember any famous grammar school students of your time?
Say that again?
Do you remember any famous grammar school students of your time?
Yes, there's Delamere from Loubaix, Irvin Shillingford, Grayson Shillingford, Phil Spear-Louis, Father Thomas, Eustace Thomas, Julius Corriett, Norman Layton, Edison James, Eli. Eli was a good sprinter. He used to run the mile.
Yes.
I don't remember his first name now.
Who was the principal at the time? Who was the grammar school principal?
Oh, we had Mr. Friday first, then Mr. Crick. Friday was the first principal, and Mr. Crick. And I can't remember another name.
Where was Friday from?
Grenada, I think it was.
Yes.
I think we used to sing a song, Catanos Grenadian. Maybe it was during his time.
And where was Crick from?
Crick, I don't know.
Was Crick a West Indian? Was Crick a West Indian or an Englishman?
Yes, he was a dark, tall fella.
Okay. Let me ask you a question about the cadet corps. Were you a cadet? Was there a cadet corps in those days?
Oh yes, so the cadet, and we played cricket we practiced cricket in the schoolyard, the old school, and there was a shooting range there. We used to shoot on the range there with .22 rifles.
Yes.
And we used to learn to drill, present arms, order arms.
So Captain Wade, you're saying to me you were a cadet then?
Yeah, I was a cadet.
Outstanding.
I could drill very well.
Outstanding. How would you say the cadet corps helped you in your life?
Oh, anything like cadet and scouting. In fact, when we went to this in our church also, Methodist church at the time, there was Boys Brigade. We used to train in the old Port Young Hotel. That was our place for training. And we had two renowned persons. We had Dr. Ram Sharan, he was a Trinidadian. He was a dentist at the time. And Richard Diday, I still see him now and then. Those are the people who taught us how to be upright. We were upright persons at that time. We never swore. Up to now, I cannot swear. I don't know how to swear. And before we trained or exercised or practiced, we had to pray. And at the end also, we had to pray. So those were the days.
So listen to this.
On Sundays in our Boys Brigade uniform, drill in and drill out, close to Wesley High School. Those were great days.
So Captain Wade, you're saying you're a member of the Cadet Corps, but you're also a member of the Boys Brigade.
Oh yes, you had to be members of good things in those days. And one of our great instructors, who became our teacher, he was much older than us, was Mr. Arthur James. The late President Charles Savre also taught chemistry and commerce. I believe that was the last year at commerce that subject was taught. And I used commerce all my life because I never had tertiary education. You know what we learned in commerce, the supply and demand, the supply and demand curve, how to shop, how to sell, what to sell for, and what to look for, etc., etc. I was guided throughout my life with those intricate explanations and understandings.
Let me ask you, Captain Wade, when you were at the grammar school, did you go from first form through fifth form?
No, I never went to first form. I might not even have gone to second form. I know Edison James and I were in third form together, and Father Thomas and Eustace Thomas and Norman later, and Eddie Lambert were in fourth form together, as far as I remember.
So you basically went to the grammar school at a higher grade because of your past performance. Is that correct?
Maybe I don't know what it took, because I was always in an A form. I never went to a B form. The B form was a big house downstairs, and the A form was the old school, just opposite Mr. the one who gave licenses at the time. He lived in that little house. Burke,
Okay.
Mr. Burke.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Burke. So essentially, you went through from maybe third form, fourth form, fifth form. Was there a technical program at the grammar school at the time? Was there the technical wing yet? No.
There was not a technical wing yet, but when we moved to the new school as a technical wing, because I learned welding at that institution, it was manned by Mr. George. Mr. George. I liked welding, so I learned to weld there, and I learned to weld. There was Herman Payne, Edgar Robinson, and such persons, because I used that skill to build my trucks in those days. I couldn't afford a truck, but I could afford old piece of iron, put together and made my own vehicle.
Indeed. Mr. Wade, you know, you were quite an innovator. You not only built boats, but you also said you made trucks. When you said you made trucks, give us a little bit of an explanation here.
Okay, well, we'll have to send me a copy of this recording, because I used it. I wanted to use it to build to write my book also. Yes, making trucks. When I went to school, driving always intrigued me, as though I could always drive. So there was a friend from Wesley. His name was Agri, something Telemark. He might have been related to us. As I told you, my mother was from Wesley. And he drove a truck. Boy, the number clear in my mind now. Thank you for that question. It was number 181. Trucks in those days were the buses. 1-foot Bedfords, 1-ton Bedfords. And they operated from St. Joseph to Roseau. So Agri drove this truck, and I knew him. So I would take a ride with him every now and then. But when we passed through Maho, just very close, just opposite that street that turns right, close to the Maho Credit Union, the upstairs building now, was Mr. Harry. Mr. Harry was a mechanic, and he also repaired starters and generators. So I don't know how I found Mr. Harry the first time. Maybe it was my father. And I used to go to Mr. Harry as long as I found time, just to watch him put generators together, put starters together. And he used to have the old US Chevrolet trucks. So when I left school, I asked Mr. Harry for a piece of a truck. And he gave me a Chevrolet truck with an engine and a gearbox. I think it had the back two and the rims, but nothing else. And I cannot remember how I took that truck to Portsmouth either. But I built that truck into a bed shave, my boys called it, because all the fellas my age at that time came with me because they saw I was just doing stuff, you know. And the rest of the truck was given to me by Mr. Angol. So I put a Bedford with the shave and made a vehicle. And my father always never turned me down. He always encouraged me. He said, "That's good, boy." And he built the box. So we got 3 or 4 shovels. And we would load that truck with sand. In those days, we could go to the beach and take sand and sell that sand. We sold it for $5 a load. The shovels were for loading and discharging the truck. And that was for our exercise too. We would go there, 2 of us. We use 1 shovel each. And if there were passers-by, they would help us with 2 other shovels. Incidentally, in Dominica in that time, there was no means of purchasing the tires for the truck, and I needed 2 tires. So I asked my father permission to leave the country on one of the sailing boats at the time, to go to make some money and I would buy my tires in one of the French countries, and he gave me permission. I got 8 bunches of bananas, 4 bags of grapefruit, and 2 bags of coconut. The grapefruit and the coconut were the grapefruits over my bed, and the coconuts over my pillow on the boat, because these boats you put your cargo after the bottom was filled on the deck, and you'd have to lay down on it And you lay down on the lee side of the boat, the side up to where the wave wouldn't hit, and just lay down there to do the voyage. And I went to Antigua with them, and sold I think the grapefruit was sold. Some bananas were not sold, but there was a lady from Wesley again. I remember her name the other day, but this morning I can't remember her name now. And I would leave the bananas with her, and she would sell them and get the money to me in Dominica, somewhere or the other. Yeah, that money was enough for me to buy my 2 tires in St. Bart's. We arrived St. Bart's. There were 17 tires, if I remember well. Maybe the same vehicle. If you find that old vehicle in the States now, the tires at the back are 17. So I got 2 17 tires. Came back home, and that's how I got my truck to run.
So you're saying to me, you brought Dominican produce, grapefruits, coconuts, bananas, as your almost kind of, I can't say collateral, but as your means of funding, sold those items. In which country was that? Guadeloupe or Martinique?
No, Antigua.
Antigua. And you took the money from those sales, or the sales of those items, or the sale of those items rather, and you bought the tires.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. And that's how you got your first set of tires.
Yeah. Well, I didn't use that truck too long. I had gone out. In fact, when I went to school, I lived at Rose Street, Goodwill. And one of the captain of one of the boats that took children to Rose was Captain Pemberton, a tall red guy. If you know Pembo at Palmolive in the soap factory in Maho,
that's his father. Yes.
Right. And they had 2 sisters also. One was a nurse, I think one passed away. But he had a truck. He had that truck driven by a Frenchman. His name again, boy? I know his children. His children still with my son sometimes. Anyway, I knew the guy. And in those days, the Frenchmen came to drive trucks in Dominica because they were very fast drivers. The vehicle's number was Bedford 481. I said, Daddy, when I leave school, I wanted to buy that truck, It's a very fast truck. And my father did buy the truck. And I built...
How was your father making his money? How was your father making his money?
Okay, well, we from that part. My father, when he came back from Guadeloupe the first time, he came also. I never saw it moving, but my father told me I was going to build an oven to bake bread. And he also had a small dugout canoe. And he took me up the Indian River, right across the bay. He rowed me right across the bay and rowed me to the cabrits where there were a lot of clay bricks from the war. So he would pick up 2 bags of clay bricks.
Actually, if we can stick a pin in that, for those who will be listening to this, Fort Shirley is located on the Cabrits, where there's a huge British fort from the days of the Napoleonic Wars, and there were a lot of bricks that were lying around in the forest. Is that correct?
Yes. We didn't go up the hill, right on the side of the sea. A lot of bricks, 20 bricks. My bricks was maybe pick up 100 bricks, and he could carry it way hand, or his parents gave him some land, I can't remember, I don't know how. And he built this oven, and with this oven he baked bread, and my brother cakes. And so school, which were our home was opposite the school, the non-school in Portsmouth, St. John's School, and the Catholic Church. And he supplied that was 4 cents in those days. And
so
all school children who went at that time, some older ones come from England and America, say, what about your mother and those cakes?
So, Captain Wade, you're saying to me that your mother and father became bakers. They bake bread and they bake cakes. Is that correct?
Yes. Every morning, 4 o'clock. Until now, I wake up every morning at 4 o'clock because my room was next to theirs, and they woke up every morning except Sunday morning. So and if up to now, if I hear screech, I'll wake. I'm not a hard sleeper at all.
So every morning
to bake every morning, and before I went to school, when I was going to school in Portsmouth, I had to go and bring them at least.
So every morning from
every
4
morning
a.m. except, I'm sorry.
Every morning they bake bread at 4 o'clock to maybe 6:30.
Oh, and what kind of bread? What kind of bread did they make?
Oh, yeah, every morning except Sunday morning. Oh, flour, yeast, salt, maybe some sugar, needed by my father. They did half to one bag every day.
Outstanding. Let me ask you then.
That meant to do business.
Yes.
Because when driving these trucks to Roseau, I went to all the merchants, and there was one lady who probably had like to see me, maybe always decent, always clean, never swearing and making noise, never busy. Josephine Gabriel, she must have died. And she asked me if there's anything I wanted to do in life. I tell her yes. I said, what do you suggest? She told me I can get you flour. I think she bought me my first 2 loads of flour, Canadian beauty flour. 20 bags I took. And I got sale for that flour in Portsmouth. So I wrote to, in fact, not quite recently, maybe 10, 15 years ago, Washra and I did that same business, but in much larger volumes. And we always did that kind of business.
Well, I just want to compliment you because you're saying to me that your parents, I mean, you went to Antigua to buy tires, coconuts, bananas, and grapefruits as your means of income generation. You got a truck, you sold flour. Your parents had a bakery. They woke up every morning, 4 a.m. except Sundays. They made bread, they made cakes. And so your father and mother were quite entrepreneurial, quite industrious. Is that correct?
Oh yes, my father went to England in 1956, and when he came back, he told me I mustn't go anywhere because he sees in me somebody who can live instead of going to feel cold or going to work for a salary. And I've never worked for a salary. In fact, they buying and selling Dominica to Guadeloupe. I did that for maybe 15, 20 years. I used that money to take care of my children and my home, build houses, bought the gas station. In fact, with my vision, I put Washra out of his first business. Washra had the first. In those days, gas was maybe $5 a gallon. And
yes.
The pump was a funny pump, it was 2 big gas bottles. And you turn the handle and move the pump, and gas was full, and that would go to your tanks. And well, some years after I came along, I built concrete on the other side, and put a pump there to pump tires and so on. Douglas said, "You see this thing? This young boy come in fire and so on." He finished it up. So I'm going to try to.
I'm going to try to. Captain Wade, before we go any further to talk about your time in boat building industry, can you give us the names of your brothers and sisters?
Okay. My sister, the one after, okay, I have some, there are some siblings before me. There's Denfield Wade, passed. Vanessa Wade, passed. Coralie Wade, still alive. And here are my Neville Wade and Juliana Wade. She lived in the States for a number of years. She lives in Philadelphia. There's Clement Wade, live in Jersey City. There is Fletcher Philip Wade, lives in Houston now. There's William Wade. He lived in Delaware also, but now he's in somewhere in Miami. Fletcher's a very good engineer. He's a very good captain, like better than me, maybe he's younger. And He's in the States now. I had opted to come to remain in Dominica on advice.
So Captain Wade, the last time we were, a moment ago, we talked about your siblings, your brothers and sisters, and so on, many of whom are in the States, some of whom have passed. But you got married at some point. Who was your wife? And tell us about your children.
Okay, I hadn't finished talking about my brothers and sisters. I have Ashton, Peter, and Winifred, in addition to what we spoke of already. Okay, I was married to
Where's
Irosa.
Ashton and where's Ashton, Winifred, and the other one? Where are they?
Ashton is somewhere in America. Peter is right here. He likes to weld like me. And Winifred took part in the housing for the students, medical students, and the medical students, the school has disappeared. I understand it's coming back in small numbers, but I don't know the facts about that.
You're talking about
Okay,
Ross University Medical School.
No, that has gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. So can I just continue?
Please.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe what we missed in the recording was my siblings. I have some who have died. Denfield Wade, Vanessa Wade, they have passed. Then I have Coralie Wade. She's still alive and she's right here in Portsmouth. Then after me, Neville Wade, there was Juliana Wade. Juliana, she's in Portsmouth, but she lived in Philadelphia for many, many years. After her, there's Clement Wade, who lives in Jersey City, New Jersey. And there is William Wade, maybe close to you. He used to be in Delaware, Virginia, and he is now somewhere in Miami. And Fletcher Wade is in Houston. Fletcher has children. All of them have children, except one of my daughters has another child. But yeah, most of us are in Dominica now. No. I am in Dominica still, and most of them are in the US. I have daughters and sons in England and in France.
Who are your
Yeah, so
children?
that is
Give us your children's names.
my children. First is Michael Wade. He lives in London. Michael first. Ned Wade. Yeah, he's right here in Portsmouth, Dominica. Olivia Wade in the States in Georgia, I think. Tracy Wade in Arizona. Michelle, Diane, Norman is in St. Kitts, and who have I forgotten? I may have forgotten one or two. Excuse me if you hear this and you don't remember hear your name. Okay, that's about it for now.
So how many children? How many children in total?
In total, I have nine or 10.
Okay, well, what about your wife? Tell us about your wife, Captain Wade.
My wife passed away on the 9th of May, 2019.
What was her name?
Very sorry. Her name was Irosa Cecilia Wade. She was between Woodford Hill and Pontcassé. The land at Pontcassé is still there, closest to the roundabout, where you turn to go either Rosalie, Roger, Layu, or Marigot.
Right. How do you spell your deceased wife's first name?
Irasa.
Irasa.
Yes.
Okay. Captain Wade, tell us, because I know we don't have a lot more time, when did you build your first boat and how did you come to build your first boat?
Okay. I don't know if I could call it a boat, but it floated. I had not yet gone to grammar school yet, so I might have been between 6 and 9 years old. And I built it because at a very young age, my father said, you have to be responsible. So I was responsible for taking the money to the bank, the money on the sale of cakes. And those were a lot of halfpennies. I don't know if you know halfpenny, if you knew the halfpenny.
Yeah, I
Halfpenny was
remember the
half
halfpenny.
penny.
It was made of very brown copper, and it was
Copper,
half a
yeah.
penny. Yeah, it was
Right,
half a
and
penny.
the penny was 2 cents, and the
Yeah,
bread bread was 4 cents, and the cake was 1 cent, because the cake was really to supply school children. And so in those days, as you had to go to school if you want halfpenny. But if you didn't have a halfpenny, and my mother saw it, she would give you a cake. So she made
what were the cakes
120
made
cakes.
of? What were the cakes made of, Wade? Were they
The cakes were
coconut
made
cakes?
of coconut, yeah, coconut, sugar, ginger, flour. She had a special way because all the old people still ask for cakes, even people who are dying. What they want one of Marwood cake. I said, but Marwood died. Now it's no longer there. Okay, so that was her cakes and her
And that's
bread. And she
coconut,
supplied
coconut,
coconut,
ginger,
ginger,
flour.
maybe some spice, flour. The coconut had to be grated, hand, you had to
Yeah.
grate it with your hand. And flour, sugar.
Okay,
That was
thank you.
the recipe.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
So your first boat was you were about 9 or 10 years old, and what kind of boat was it?
It was a little boat because I used to carry the codfish and the smoke herring and a few tins of sardines and corned beef, some weighed out rice, a few bottles of oil to the shop in Glenville, what my father built. That was around 3/4 of a mile from where we lived. After I did that a few times, I thought that I would assist myself to not have to carry the load, but to roll it. I don't know if when you were small, you built a little truck. We call it a truck with 4 wheels. And sometimes we'll pull it behind us, whatever we want to carry, or we put a broomstick in it with a bobbin so we could steer it from behind. So I put the cargo in that and rolled it to Granville. So all these boxes, I put it under the shop. Then I had to find something to do with it. I built this little boat under the shop. My father said I shouldn't take his saw, his hammer, his tools, but I still found a way to take 1 or 2 of his tools and build that. And I could neither swim nor row, so whatever, a friend from Anguilla, his name was Captain Ferrara, and he had a son named Sonny. I don't know if Sonny and Gloria are still alive. My father was Sonny's godfather. In those days, I was godfather at the church. And so screw. But to finish that boat now, I had to cork it so it wouldn't leak. But I had no money. So I cut breadfruit trees. And if you lived in Dominica sometime, you saw that white stuff that came down from the breadfruit trees. I chewed that until it became gluey for many weeks to cork the boat. So when we put it in water, it didn't leak. And Sonny rowed me to Portsmouth, close to the market. There was a big boat house at the time. I hadn't seen the boat again because I had to study at the time. I could chance to go to grammar school. I did study and I did pass. Yeah.
So, Captain Wade, I am going to share, you may not see it, but I'm sharing on the screen a booklet that I got from you called A Short Account of the Life of Neville Ellison Wade of Portsmouth in the island of Dominica in the Eastern Caribbean, one of the islands of the Windward Islands. On that, I see a ferry that you've owned,
Yeah.
a very big ferry.
That's the ferry.
Where did you
That's
buy,
the one we're talking about.
yeah, where did you buy that ferry?
It belonged to the French. It belonged to the French. It was,
Where
I
did
forgot the
you
name
go
it
to buy
was.
it? Tell me where you went to buy it.
We organized for it, and we got it in Guadeloupe. But it was built
Okay.
in Sweden.
Okay. And how many passengers can that ferry carry?
397 or 367.
367 passengers.
Yes.
And they sit on seats like airplane seats, right?
Yeah, there are 365 aircraft seats here.
Yeah. And I also show to the left of that two cargo vessels. Tell us about the two cargo vessels that are to the left of that on the screen.
Okay, the two cargo vessels. I bought the outer one from the French, and I bought the inner one from it was a fishing boat in South Bristol, Maine.
It was a fishing boat in Maine.
It used to be a fishing boat in Maine. It was called the Ocean Roma.
Okay. So let me just stop you for a moment. Stop you for a moment.
Yeah.
The outer boat, what was the name of the outer boat?
The outer boat's name was I can't remember, but the present name was Love Divine.
God's Design.
Love Divine. Love Divine. D-I-V-N-E.
Oh, Love,
Divine.
L-O-V-E, Love Divine. Okay.
Yes.
And in the boat was
We love in all the boats we own. Yeah. And the other one we named it Abiding Love. It was
Abiding Love.
the flagship of the Eastern Caribbean. Built a ramp at the back of it, caterpillars, cranes. I carried the biggest crane in the Caribbean on it. It had 2 wheels and was about 87 feet long. It was used gentlemen in St. Martin for moving electrical generators.
Okay. So the inner boat, you bought it in the U.S. state of Maine, M-A-I-N-E, Maine.
Yeah. It's 120 miles from Newfoundland. Yeah. We bought it right in Maine and we took it to Dominica.
So you flew up to Maine, you took a plane up to Maine, right? And then you captained it back
I
to
took
Dominica.
a plane to the States. I had gone to, oh yes, yes, yeah. I went to Europe to look for a ship, but it was a little difficult that year. So I went to the American, got that one.
Okay. How much was that boat, the one on the left, the one in Maine?
Connection.
How much did you buy it for? You remember?
It was 200 and something thousand.
Maybe 200 and something thousand.
Yeah. In that days, that was 19, maybe 95 or 96, somewhere there.
Okay. All right. How far have you gone, Captain Wade, to buy vessels? How far have you gone? How far have you traveled?
I think I told you I went so in very close to Russia. It's around the point to I'm not sure his name again. Just around the point to Moscow. If you look on the map, you see it. Tromso. There's a place sometimes the sun don't set. Troms with the cross because it's Swedish language. Oh, Tromso.
Okay. So we have these two vessels. I'm going down here to look at another vessel. Okay, I understand. This vessel is the Independence. When did you build the Independence?
Yeah. Right in Lago, just in Portsmouth. But it wasn't built for me. That was built by us for Cyril Hyacinth because he was a very good captain with us, young, and we thought he should have a boat also. Every piece of wood on that boat saw it ourselves. Got the tree, brought the tree close to home, one below, one on top, and we saw every piece of lumber from that boat.
So that boat was built in Portsmouth. That boat was built in...
Yes, yes.
What year was it built?
He's still alive. 1978. When Dominica was getting independence, we thought we'd build a boat to be independent also.
Outstanding. Was that boat powered by sail or by mechanical
Sail and
an
engine. Sail and engine. I told you we had no funds to purchase engines, so we regularized and made cooling systems for truck engines, and we put in the truck in there, and we could go the world with that.
Okay. I'm going to show you. That's a picture of you as a young boy right here, when you were at the grammar school. You look a bit like R.B. Douglas in that picture. And I'm going to also show another boat that you built in 1966, the L.A. Wade. Tell us about that boat.
Okay, that is the one I built in my mother's yard after I left school also. All the boys you see up there, I have two brothers there, some of my compatriots who, so one of them is incapacitated, he doesn't move, cannot move anymore. Fellas, some teachers that passed right in the States, one got accident the other day, Jerome Joseph. That stylish one in front there is my brother who lives in Jersey City. And all the boys from Portsmouth. That was the day we were launching it. And the house behind there, the big wooden house you see, very old, was the building where we put our small boats, our dinghies. So I built that boat
So
at the
I
back
see
of my
some names
mother's
here,
house.
like outstanding. So you have teacher Jerome, Carlton Powell, Merrill Wallace,
Yes,
something James Thomas, Casimir Joseph, Neville Wade, and brother Clem.
yes, James Thomas died.
And I see you here in 1976 with your first Mercedes Benz. Tell us about that.
Well, people found it intriguing. So everybody wanted to give me something. A fella gave me a Mercedes.
Where did you get that Mercedes? Where was it purchased? Was it purchased
In
in Dominica?
No, I told you. I didn't purchase it. I used to go to every night. A lot of grown people found my life intriguing. They don't know how I was young getting on, you know. So they want to give me something. They give me Mercedes Benz. It had a little squeeze at the back, and I was a body repairer also. So I repaired it.
So you're a welder, you're a ship captain, you're a mechanical engineer. So was that boat given to you in Dominica or one of the French Islands?
The car
Yes.
was given me in Guadeloupe, Point-de-Pete.
It was given to you in Pointe-à-Pitre. Would you say that
Yeah.
throughout the course of your life, your relationships with the French Islands have been very profitable?
Well, as the size of boat could afford, it was. I didn't go alone. I took a lot of young boys with me. In fact, to run that boat, we formed a little cooperative, and we bought our stuff together. Went sold the stuff. We did a lot of coconuts and crayfish and stuff like that, and separated the money. Always bought on Tuesday evening or Wednesday evening, the evening we left, boxes of food for our relatives, so we were never hungry. At least everybody on board was always well fed.
Okay. So here is another boat. Do you remember this one?
Oh yes, that boat was called the it came from Liverpool in England,
Liverpool,
and
England.
it came to Dominica just before Hurricane David.
I see.
It was owned by the Attorney General of St. Vincent. His name was, or is, I think he's still alive, Arthur Williams. And he had three boats here. The Little Stephen was bigger than this one. This one, and a bigger one, a 2,000 ton. I can't remember the name. Remember getting real losing. So that boat came ashore in Portsmouth just after Hurricane David.
Okay.
And Mr. Williams sent tugboats he sent his big ship, and he sent some trawlers to try to get it out, but he didn't get it out.
Okay.
So I called him and told him I want to buy the boat. He said, "You're a crazy fella. You're the crazy fella in Portsmouth." I said, "Okay, they say I'm crazy, but I want to buy the boat." He said, but I tried to take it and it didn't come off." I said, "No, you tried to move Dominica, and you can't move Dominica like that. But I will not move Dominica. I'll get the boat out." He said, "Okay, okay, okay." He told me he wanted $50,000 for the boat. Of course, I had no money because I had just lost my two vessels. Pictures of those you don't have. They were destroyed in the hurricane. There were two wooden vessels I had, with sails and truck engines also. I carried 500 bags of cement on one, and 250
Stop a
on the
moment,
smaller
stop a
one.
moment, stop a
But
moment, Captain Wade. Stop a moment. You're saying to me that the two wooden vessels, they had sails, but you also put truck engines in the vessels yourself.
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Because we couldn't buy engines. We couldn't buy. I could dive under the boat and bore three ribs in those days there were no electric organ, and you couldn't put an electric tool in the sea anyway. So we dive under the sea and bore the hole and create a radiator and put it under the boat and use that radiator to cool the engine. So we didn't really use. On one of them, I think we used salt water, but we had no problems with them. We had no problem with them. We never overused our engines or used them full capacity. So they
So
just lasted and
what about the
lasted.
propellers? Who designed the propellers for the truck engines that you use?
Oh, we just I can't remember the mathematics I used, but we always got a lot of speed. We got up to 10 knots, and we designed the propeller and put the shaft. In those days, really, I had policemen helping me because we had no lift tools. We would prepare the end of the shaft for the propeller with a hacksaw. One of my friends, Sergeant, he was from some Castle Bruce. He's married to a teacher from Salisbury. They live in Canada now, if they're still around. They were my wife's very, very, very good friend. So yeah, we did all that ourselves. We did everything ourselves.
So I
Build the
want
boat, build the
history
truck.
to record this. Listen to me. I want history to record this. You went to the grammar school. You never went to college for
Yeah.
mechanical engineering, but you were able to go
I
into
never went to
truck
college for
engine.
anything, anything.
Okay.
No college,
You're able
no
to go,
college.
understood. You're able to go into truck engines, take a truck engine. What you're talking about, Bedford truck or a Humber? What kind of truck we're talking about?
In fact, Bedford truck we thought was too soft. So we used to go to Martinique, and of course a Bedford truck here we couldn't buy it because everybody wanted Bedfords. But in Martinique, when we drove around Martinique a little bit, saw a lot of trucks packed. And to us, they didn't look as trucks the people would use again because Martinique was very much more sophisticated than Dominica. So we found out who the owners of those trucks were, and they were those trucks were mostly MAN, M-A-N, German engines. And some of the owners said, "Look, take the engine quick, let me dump it because I don't want the truck. It can work, but it's an old truck. I don't want it anymore." And we took those engines, put it on our little boats, and bring them to Dominica and put them in the boats.
So you're taking engines from Martinique, from MAN vehicles, MAN, German engines, and you're putting those engines in a canoe.
Well, it's not a canoe, it's a boat 45 feet long.
Okay.
And we went over the Caribbean with these boats.
No.
Barbados,
Hold
Trinidad.
1 second. No, stop. I'm not talking about once you install the engine. I'm saying, how did you transport the engines that you harvested in Martinique from the French trucks, the MAN engine, the German engines? How did you move it to Dominica before you installed it?
Oh, we just moved it in another small boat. I can't even remember. I think we moved it in this small vessel. The commercial tester was its name. You don't have that picture.
Okay. So you brought the
we
engine
always
over. You brought the
Pardon?
engine over, and then you installed it
Yeah,
in. Which was the
in a
first? What
boat.
was the first boat that you installed the MAN engine into?
No, the first boat we installed a truck engine in was the Lawton. The one where you saw with
Okay.
the boys sitting there, yeah.
Okay. So that was that boat right here. This one.
Yeah,
So you had a
Lawton.
truck engine in that one.
In fact, it had two truck engines. We put twin engines in that one.
Amazing. And you designed that all yourself.
I did that in my mother's yard. I couldn't do it by the sea because the big men usually came around to see what you're doing, and they would laugh at you because it's built like a box. But that was the shape of the old crash launch that took the dignitaries from the Grumman Goose, which was the plane that landed people in those days. It was a
Yeah.
Grumman Goose, was a seaplane that landed right in Portsmouth here. And
That's
the governor and the
if you can stop,
magistrates and
for
so
those who will listen to this, before we had an airport in Dominica, people traveled by air on a seaplane called the Grumman Goose, made by the
Yeah.
Grumman Company USA. And you're saying that this launch, you designed it based on the launch that would do that. So you observed the launch and you patterned your design on the launch that you knew, and you put two truck engines in that launch called the Lawaden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
In fact, I even have two still. I wanted to build a museum to put them in. I still have two of the crash launch engines in my yard. A red one and a silver one. They were
Amazing.
Cummings engines, big 6-cylinder engines. They were great, but I had not learned about the gear yet. So when she ran for like half an hour, the gear would give up. I hadn't studied the gearboxes or the transmissions as yet. So I took those engines off, and then I put the truck engines in this one.
Let me ask you,
Truck engine
Captain
and
Wade,
gear.
how far? Let me ask you, how far have you traveled on a boat that you built with truck engines? How far have you traveled and come back to Dominica?
The Caribbean, St. Martin. I can't remember going to total Barbados, in the Rough Sea, Trinidad, all the islands.
So you've traveled all the
And lucky we
islands.
never stopped once. We never stopped once with a truck engine. Huh? Yeah, we did all the islands.
And you never stopped once. You were never in a situation where you're at sea and the engines failed.
Maybe once by Guadeloupe, but wasn't it because the engines failed? Some slight thing, some slight business, some pump or the other.
But you never had a boat where you were operating it that you built in Dominica with the truck engines that sunk.
No, some on the sea, no. We always went and came back safe. We always had a
Outstanding.
lot of people on board. And in those days we had life-saving equipment. Maybe never couldn't afford it. In fact, it was small, there was space to put.
Let me ask you a question. On the boats that you built in Dominica, with the truck engines that you harvested in Martinique and other places, what was the largest, let's say, complement of crew and passengers that you ever had on one of those boats?
Oh, let me tell you, sometimes I did a thing we call boat ride. It was a boat ride with effort. It was an effort for my church. I did an effort for my church on May Day with all my boats. But the little wooden boat, I would take maybe 40, 50 persons. Sometimes we do a triangle. In fact, last month, I went to go out with my son, and I met a lady, and I said, Liz, I swear, but I know that lady. I said, Liz, but not you that was on Lawin with us? Yes, and she used to be on Lawin with us. And we had gone from Dominica to Marigaland, to the Saints, and back to Portsmouth. Just for a visit, just an outing, just for a boat ride. We call that the boat ride. So people would put in some money for that. I did that with the big ships too. Sometimes I used to have 400 persons on board. And
400,
those funds
400 persons.
Yes. Those funds were to do something in the church or any church around Portsmouth, or even for the political party also. We do a little outing.
I'm going to show you.
Yeah,
I'm going to
we
show
took once. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to show you some. I'm going to show you a vessel. This vessel.
Yeah.
Yes. Where is that? The Oscar Flora?
That was the point. The most beautiful vessel ever built. I bought it in Denmark in 1993. Not quite a vessel, but I continued driving around Denmark, and we went to Ireland. You look One of the then construct 300 islands. The last road there's a dry dock. That boat is just receiving new bottom, years old. And bought
So
it
you bought,
in that
let me
plan.
let me make sure I understand. You bought that vessel in Denmark in what year?
1983.
And how long was that boat?
210 feet long, 27 feet wide.
And you
See the line on
sailed,
that? That's so pretty, man.
was that the biggest boat you ever bought?
No. That's a small one.
What's the biggest boat you ever bought?
We had the Amazing Grace. I gave this boat to my brother because I was going to Denmark with our friend to look for another boat. I loaded it in Santo Domingo. It was clean. I had finished paying the bank, and I put 1,000 tons of fertilizer in it, bound for Barbados. I gave it to my brother Fletcher, very good navigator also, and he went to Barbados safely. But that year, the hurricane came over St. Vincent, and we were very law-abiding. He should have gone into St. Vincent and don't go to the law, don't go to the immigration. You just anchor out. But he might have died too. So he anchored the boat and he went to the shore, to the immigration, to make his declaration that he had arrived in St. Vincent. And that is the Amazing Grace. Wow. And that time he had no time to go back aboard because the waves were coming over the wharf. By the time he reached aboard, back on board, the boat had already turned over and gone onto the rocks because St. Vincent put some rocks by the beach to protect the beach. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, Captain Wade, I'm just frankly amazed at what you've done. You built a little boat at 9 years old out of codfish boxes, which floated. Then you built the La Waden. Then you built the Independence. Then you built boats using, truck engines that sailed the entire Caribbean. Went to Denmark, went to Norway, went to Holland, and then you bought this ferry. Let me ask you a question, Captain Wade. When you bought the boat in Denmark, did you sail it all the way from Denmark to Dominica?
Oh yes, oh yes. Well, of course, the shipping magnate was there, Avril, my boy, three of us. There was three of us aboard.
Where did people like Captain Avril and yourself learn to read, marine maps and to read the sextant and those things?
Well, I have to say, though, I don't like to say it because people might call you boaster, the word we use. But Captain Avril was a genius. When we organized the gas station, we were just friends. And he was supposed to operate the gas station. But then he found some means whereby he could go to work on a research vessel. So in Europe, I think it was Ireland. And Captain went to say on the deck, just doing research work, pulling nets and lines. He learned navigation. And he found a way whereby he could research gently ask the captain of the research vessel in this. That was somewhere in 1960, 61. I just remembered, the Black Star Line of Africa, Selassie, or Marcus Garvey. If he looks in his I don't know, the itinerary or the records in those days, he will see a Captain Henry Joseph. Captain Henry Joseph was the brother of Captain Bernard Avril. He studied in England and he worked on the Black Star Line. And anytime the Black Star Line got a new ship into Africa, he had to do the captaincy. You will maybe, if you mention it to Garvey's son, and he just look up the books as the ship captains during the 1950s, he will see Captain Henry Joseph. He was really our brother. He died when he came back here, unfortunately. And yeah,
So,
we can just
Captain
make
Henry Joseph was from Dominica,
Portsmouth, Dominica, Lago, same place where we build the
and he
boats.
was a captain who also worked on the Black Star Line.
He was a captain that the Black Star Line held in very high repute, in that when they got a new ship at that time, he had to be the captain.
Yes, and he was a brother of Captain Avril. What was Captain Avril's full name? Do you remember?
Bernard Avril.
Bernard Avril.
Bernard
And-
Albert Avril. Bernard Albert Avril.
And Bernard Albert Avril found a way in the early 1960s, 1960-61, to work on a research vessel. And by working on that research vessel, he learned seafaring. Is that correct?
Seafaring, navigation, he knew how to find about 100 stars in his head. I don't know how he did that. He could, the first three times we came from England or Europe, we had no electronics. He did the sun, the stars, the moon, put on the chart, draw the line, and we came directly, I said, between Marigaland and Portsmouth, directly.
So you're saying that
With
Captain
no-
Avril
with no
learned
electronics.
seafaring. He learned seafaring so that he could go to Europe from Dominica and back.
Well, I don't know what he learned it for. He learned it to be a captain. In fact, he always had the idea to come to Dominica with a small ship, and he did it. He was the first person who brought a small ship to Dominica from England. From England. It was the motor vessel Taylor. We don't have a picture of it. But I still see, apart from the engine, it had 3 cylinders in the engine. They were huge cylinders like this. When I walk down the wharf by the fisheries, there's one spare cylinder sitting at the head of the wharf there. It's a huge bulk of iron. It's right there. And I know, the boys we train know that is the part of the engine of that boat.
Is it your ambition, Captain Avril, to have a museum in Portsmouth to really record for posterity the history of the great seafarers from Portsmouth, like Captain Askie Wyke, Captain Bernard Avril, yourself, Captain Wade, and the shipbuilding industry of Portsmouth?
It's all like my ambition. But it's true that from the 2020s, ambitions fade. The ambitions are lost. Ambitions are covered under the bushel. And if you hide your light under the bushel, it cannot show any light. And the light of Portsmouth and seafaring is going very, very dim. The things we did, our behavior, the change of behavior we brought when we began going to the sea. We were not fellows who came and bought a shelf and a rum shop, and everything you said, you had to say effing, and your mother this. Boys nowadays speak as though the heads may be empty, that they have no gray matter to create a conversation. So just swear down the road. And they really don't learn anything. They don't understand what they have the electronics to the navigation from the telephone, and they think that's good enough. But one day that won't work, and then you don't know where to go. And I think it's a whole new set of learning and money for that type of entrepreneurship, for that type of idea to bring across to some engines used in 1950. Pictures of boats built by the boys in Portsmouth. I don't think people have the ambition to take part in that, so they won't put any funding into that. But that would be something so great. And maybe we can put it on our itinerary for something like that to be done,
Indeed.
And,
Captain Avril, I want to
great
say to
families.
you, Captain Avril, I want to say to you, I'm very humbled to be in your presence. I remember the first time I met you was in 2002 at a symposium. I didn't know Douglas Washington, Douglas brought you to Roseau when we brought the Dominicans from the United States, England, and Canada. The Diaspora in the Development Process Symposium, set up by the Rosie Douglas Foundation and the Dominica Academy of Arts and Sciences. We still have that ambition to work with you for 2 things: the revival of the shipbuilding industry in Portsmouth, the development of that industry to the degree that we can build ships not only do that, but also train young people from Dominica and the sub-region in marine science so they can learn how to navigate the seas of the world, and as well a museum of shipbuilding and a marine science museum in Portsmouth that can show Dominicans how Dominicans like yourself, with very little formal education at the tertiary level, was able to go ahead and harvest engines in the French islands, man engines, other engines, and to build ships right there in Portsmouth that traveled all over the Caribbean. And that further, you and Captain Avril and others were able to go to Europe and buy ships that were old and refurbish them and sail them back to Dominica and have them ply in the Caribbean Sea. That's an outstanding feat. And I just want to take a moment to salute you, sir, for your outstanding leadership in marine science. You are, as far as I'm concerned, a national hero by any stretch of the imagination. And it's a kind of, what you have said this morning to me today is of such power, profundity, that it really inspires me and all those, I think, who will hear this recording to really make use of their time, because time is money, and the time we have today is all that we have. But you're a very inspiring figure. In conclusion, I want to ask you how many boats you have now, what are they being used for, and what is your vision for the marine industry in Dominica and the Caribbean?
Okay, I want to say that you have I will say praise me for I don't want to take all that praise. Whenever I talk about shipping and Portsmouth and Dominica, I never want to forget my brother Avril, who died. I could see him dying in Portsmouth with grief in his heart for all that he has done. His last ship was a 2,700-ton ship, and he had still had plans to go a little further. And he didn't just run that ship in Portsmouth or around these small islands. He operated out of Houston to Colombia. And it is remarkable how we poor boys who did all these great feats were just trampled underfoot. That ship was seized in Colombia because half a bag of some sort of cement got wet. And we had to smuggle, my brother Fletcher had to get around a dozen torchlights to go to take that ship from Puerto Cabello. That the captain at the time, our brother Henry Joseph, was put in jail because he would start the engine to keep it going now and then. But they stole money from us and told us if we paid $20,000 or $30,000, they could let the ship go. That man who received the money, we never saw him again. We went in ourselves. My brother, very brave, younger than us, and he took the ship up with a torchlight and took it to Grenada, where he stopped and repaired the generators and had them going again. We brought that ship to Dominica, and a hurricane put the ship ashore. Very bad hurricane. And days it remained. That ship was so old. And I don't want to say what to call them, but all the material was given by our people to people outside of Dominica to sell, whereby they could make funds to start a business in Dominica. It is just a shame that this type of things happen in Dominica. It's a shame that I bought a ferry after working all those years on the sea. The ferry cost, get it on the way, over $4 million. In Trinidad, when I made my first voyage, after having gone to Trinidad over 5 times to complete agreements with the immigration, the port, the customs, and all of them. They were just against the whole move. The first trip we made with Tide Ferry, the ferry to go to smash other vessels. Every other trip we made kept detained 3, 4, 5 persons aboard so that we could feed and clothe and take them back. At that time, I ran from Grenada to Trinidad. We persevered. until we got full load from Trinidad, 300 persons, around twice or three times. And even businesses around Grenada and Trinidad were doing just as you're doing now, praising us for that. In fact, when we had no money to buy fuel, there was a young man in Grenada who gave me fuel to complete the voyage. I must write down his name because I am very bad on remembering names now. Maybe the age is bringing, lack of memory. But it's a rare feat to go to Europe, buy a boat you don't know, learn about it, maybe from where you buy it to where they deliver it to you, learn about it maybe within a half day or 2 days, or ask them to come with you to the Kiel Canal and take it over in Germany and go right down river, all these Holland and Antwerp, Belgium, England, right down to Spain. Sometimes we stop in Spain on one of the Canary Islands. In Palma Island, we found out was a cheaper island, and didn't have so much restrictions. And we brought these old ships in Dominica, and by magic, had them going for 15, 20 years, because we couldn't afford to buy a good, proper new ship. And up to now, the islands have never opted shipping to an industry. An industry can go and demand certain things from your government. Governments have helped, but that's not how the help for shipping goes. Shipping needs help when it needs help. It doesn't need help maybe when you can. Sometimes you can't. And that has been our big dilemma. So we always bought old ships, but we had to make them work. 20, 25 years. We had to learn their engines and repair them ourselves because to pay the airfare and the parts and everything to get them here was absolutely impossible. But we are here. And another ship may be the correct way to go now. We can still have plenty of work because most of these fellows who have ships now have been ill and dying away. Death is necessary and we will die soon, one day, but we can still go enough to teach some more boys around. Thank you very much for this go and come conversation. There are lots of things I did in my life that we didn't talk. We didn't talk about building stone crushers. I started, but we had forgotten. We built stone crushers and supplied Dominica government and with material for building the school at Wesley, the trade school, for building the first bypass, for building certain bridges. And so, certain funny things always happen when we did that type of business. But I must say, to God be the glory. Great things he has done and he can still do.
I want to ask you, Captain Wade, what has been the role of faith, your Christian faith, in your success?
Oh, I believe that's the only thing that can give you success, when we left here to go to Europe, we didn't have a suitcase of clothes. We might have had one work boots, 2 coveralls, 2 shirts, 2 pants, a toothbrush maybe, and not much money at all. Not much money at all. So we had to find a ship within our means. Sometimes we made arrangements with the banks, and when we got over there was no money to be had because the documents were lost and things like that. Funny things, especially this last beauty there, this ferry here. The first time my friend saw it, he said, "Boy, Captain Wade, you crazy." I mean, how you mean? How you can go and buy that and say it's a boat you buy to work? You could never go nowhere with that. They could take it from you, and that was funny coming from him, but that was so true. So true. So true.
Captain Wade, this particular ferry that you've shown that's on the screen right now, where is it located right now?
It's in Grenada, in Scott Bay, Grenada. It has been there for 5 years.
Is it in dry dock right now?
We can get it up. Yeah, it's just in that same position. We can put it back on the dry dock there, but we have to spend. Our idea was to create a dry dock in Portsmouth and bring it back home and put it there and take our time to repair it and save the $70,000 to $80,000 they're going to charge us. So I don't know when we'll succeed to do that because things are getting worse and worse. But if we can have money to put on it right up, we can probably bring it here within 2 months. After we visit it, well, we'll see what can be done with it.
Okay.
And
Is the main issue right
is
now
a-
with it a new engine? What does it need right now? A new engine?
now I don't know what it needs because I haven't been on it for 5 years. But some people may want to say what is wrong with it, and they say the wrong thing because they're not so inclined, you know, they're not so mechanically inclined. But it's there, it's there. Maybe throw some acid on it and wash it down and come back shining like that.
Okay.
But that's the position we are
Okay.
in now.
Captain Wade, I just want to, as I said, compliment you for the efforts you've made. My hope is that we can realize the revival of the shipbuilding industry in Portsmouth, the Marine Science Museum, as well as the refurbishing of the ferry or the purchase of a new one. I want to let you know that after our meeting this morning with Dr. Julius Garvey and former Mayor of Portsmouth, Mr. Douglas, I had a very good conference with some a potential partner in the United Kingdom, and I'll speak to you about that offline. But any final words as we leave this morning for the young people who are coming up in Dominica and across the Caribbean and the African diaspora?
My final words to the young people, please get up and don't sleep. You're tired at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Get up in the morning. I don't tell you to get up like me at 4, but get up in time that you cool off to do thinking and working. You can do anything that comes to your mind. Honestly, if I'm still alive for some years to come, I'm going to build a plane. It doesn't have to fly. It has to be able to go on the sea and maybe go to Roseau in half an hour. I want to do that. And I will send you a picture of the boat I'm now building. We saw in the wood also, and we want to put 5 engines in this one. My reason is that young boys have not learned mechanic or how to repair or how not to get scared if your engine breaks down at sea. So I want to go to RB and tell RB, you can go to Antigua. Come, let me show you where to go. You cannot sleep. You have to stay awake. And if this engine breaks down, don't worry, I'll fix it when you come back. Just start up the other one. So I'm designing it specially. I'm going to put 4 pretty bunks, 2 toilets, and I want to put the wash basin at the top of the toilet, and nice kitchen. Want to organize the stuff very properly. If they want to learn how to fiberglass, I'll be fiberglassing within the month. And if they want to learn how to move heavy cargoes, impossible to move things from funny places. Come and see how I remove 60 feet from a little space behind the gas station. It's all a teaching process, if and when our people want to learn. I say again, to God be the glory. And please don't let anything people do be a problem to you. That problem, that ferry has been a problem to the whole Caribbean. And hence the reason why it never truly succeeded. It never truly succeeded. I want to tell you to Apasson, the wharf in Portsmouth was built by me. I was put on the board of the port board, a board member. And I decided I would not retire or leave the port board unless Portsmouth had a wharf. Because the wharf in Portsmouth had 12 feet of water, and if a ship came, he had to go somewhere else. Or he couldn't come to Dominica. And when I designed the wharf myself, thanks to Mr. Badilo, the manager, he's still a manager, he agreed with all the craziness I said. I said, I'm going to put a ramp. And we have no material. I'll go everywhere, pick up pieces of each beams, my design. And the other things I did around Portsmouth, it will take us the day to reach close to the end. Thank you very much for this interview. I have been using that type of information to write my book. My daughter has parts of it in England. She should publish it anytime. And I hope we talk again, Mr. Christian. God bless.
Thank you very much, Captain Wade. Some of it was a little choppy because of the connectivity, but I'm thankful for what we have. I will send you a copy of the recording, and so we'll make the best use of it, and then we can always have another go at it. But let's close with a prayer. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the life of Captain Wade and his family, and Mr. Douglas, who made this possible, former mayor of Portsmouth, Wash. I didn't know Douglas, his son, Robert Douglas as well, RB, and pray, Lord, that we shall succeed in reviving marine science, marine industry in Portsmouth, and help prosper not only Portsmouth and Dominica, but the entire Caribbean as well, and help the African diaspora as we connect our people back to Africa, connect them to Europe and other parts of the world where we can forge good relationships. Bless Captain Wade and bless our endeavors. Amen.
Amen. Peace be unto you, brother.
Peace be unto you.